This is an international podcast transmission. Is anyone out there? If you're listening, you've reached the No Fixed Agenda podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to No Fixed Agenda, brought to you by Bubs Natural. You got Omar here and, you know, my big, sexy counterpartner.
Jeff Stoner on the other side.
This one's particularly special for me, dude.
I'm just going to let you roll with
it. Let me roll with this one, dude. You know, today you're going to be listening to Jeff's origin story, the big man's origin story. And we got into a myriad of topics from your childhood, how you grew up, the environment you did, and what drove you to become an entrepreneur and come out to San Diego, dude. And
stupidity.
It wasn't. It was awesome, though, dude. I really had I had a great time interviewing you. And it's something that we've had on the calendar for quite some time, and we just never got around to it. But now we get to share with our audience who you are. How do you feel about that,
You know, if you want to skip this episode, it's fine.
He's so humble. Look at him. He's so bashful. Look at him.
You know what? Listen to it. It's the best episode.
Thank you. You know, dude, I think it's important. I think there's a lot, like you say quite often, it's hard for you to get a word in edgewise, but now.
Just a little bit. But that's okay. It's fine.
But
I'm not bitter about everything. It's okay.
We got a whole episode on you, buddy. Like a whole thing, right? And I think it's more important. I think for me, the reason why I had such a good time doing it is because we started the podcast because of the 5 fears, and then you played a huge part in doing that. And for me, I think having our audience understand why you are such an integral part of this whole dynamic between you and I, and understanding how the dynamic it's harmonious, dude. Like, yes, I am the color and you are the line, but dude, it works so beautifully. And I think this story and the story that you tell kind of sheds light as to why that is.
Yeah. And
there's some embarrassing parts that what are you
honestly
nervous about?
It's kind of funny. Like, how many times or how often do you actually go and tell your full story to people, right? It's
Never.
Kind of one of those things.
It's like yeah.
You kind of think about it as you go through that experience, and then as you listen back to it, you're like, oh yeah, God, I hope I don't come off as an asshole in that one. Or what the fuck was I doing, right? And it's so I don't know. It's interesting. I have no regrets in life at all. I think, at least not from the way my life has played out in the direction that it's gone, because it's all worked out for me and what I have currently, right? You know, I live in San Diego. I've got a beautiful wife, and I've got an unbelievable job that I love. I've got great friends, right? So I'm in that zone of I shouldn't regret anything, right? And I think that's the beauty of the way you look at some of the stuff and you hear some of the stuff that I went through to get here, and it's like, oh, okay, and I don't really verbalize that to a lot of people, right? It's kind of one of those things, and a lot of people just don't do that, but it's kind of one of those things. Like, I don't really tell my full story
to anybody.
Really. It's
So I'm going to answer that question for you, dude. I've told my story several times because of my traumas, and people have asked me to do that, right? And so, like, I've done it a few times. That's what makes it so easy for me. But for somebody like you, I think it's important that people see, you know, the humor behind our podcast is there, right? And it's not all fun and games, man. I think you have gone through some things, right? You've made some mistakes. But all those things, no regrets, is absolutely what I think this title should be. It's because we are the sum total of all of our experiences. And so you, my good sir, have gone through some major experiences and now share them freely with the world, buddy.
I've had some unbelievable experiences.
Dude,
there's a lot of shit that I don't remember.
Dude, and the stuff that you were saying, I was like, no, like for real, dude. It was awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It was fun. It's always interesting to go back and think about that kind of stuff, you know, as you go back and try and tell the story, and you kind of hope that stuff doesn't get lost in translation a little bit. You know, it's like, oh yeah, was that the way it worked out, or I don't know, but
hey, the timelines could, as long as it happened, dude.
But for all you know, I told the fucking truth the entire fucking way.
We had his hand on the Bible the whole time, you guys.
Yeah. Fucking hand burned. Just kidding. It's okay.
You are wearing a band on your hand that was on the Bible. Yeah. But here we go, you guys. You have Jeff Stoner's origin story and no regrets at it. Let's go, baby. This is No Fixed Agenda, brought to you by Bubs Natural. Their mission statement is simple: live better, live longer. Bubs helps fuel people to reach their maximum human potential through supplements sourced from nature's highest quality ingredients, while giving 10% of all proceeds back to charity. Learn more about their NSF sports certified collagen peptides and electrolyte drink mix at bubsnaturals.com. Always bossing me around. All I want to do is just have a little fun. Just have some fun.
Oh, please.
All I want to do is have some fun. So how's the rest of that thing?
I got a feeling I'm not the only
one. There you go. Something about Santa Monica Boulevard, right? What?
Oh, yeah.
Until the sun comes up, Santa Monica Boulevard. Yeah. Oh, shit. I'm going to put that one on the playlist.
I'm glad I'm recording this, by the way.
Yeah. The fact that I know, who's that? It's
Sheryl Crow.
Sheryl Crow. The fact that I know some Sheryl Crow, I'm going to get my gangster card pulled, bro.
She's
until the sun comes up.
God, what is into you today?
Bro, I'm on 4.5 hours of sleep and I ate a shit ton of cheese, so I'm really gassy right now. Cheese.
From last night.
Yeah. Dude, that table was terrible, bro.
Terribly good.
Oh, yes, but it was not good for my macros, bro. It was
terribly good.
It's not good for my macros, bro. It was. I'm like, you know what? I'm just not gonna. I just give up. It's just. What did they call it? They called it like a grazing table, right?
They called it a grazing table.
It was a grazing table, but it was like a trough charcuterie board, dude. It was no shit, Tina. It was like three of these tables.
Yeah, it was so long.
And it just packed full of salty meats, nuts, sweets, crackers. And it was packed. By the end of the night, that thing was freaking empty. And most of the damage was done by Jeff and I.
I'm glad I got there late.
Yeah.
I didn't see the entire thing.
Yeah. They were like, they didn't need to serve food after that, bro. They did it. Are we good now? The lighting's right? Do I look skinny? Yeah.
I like your mics. These are nice.
Those are nice. See, Tina got all the fancy tech stuff, man. Because those other mics, you want?
I can't even clap today.
Oh, that'll be good.
And
action.
Oh, Jesus. All right. So we're pulling an audible today, buddy. We are. And that's okay. Yeah. You know what? I'm trying to get, part of my being so silly lately and singing Sheryl Crow and the Santa Monica Boulevard song was to get you out of your funk a little bit, buddy.
Funk?
Yeah, you were in a funk. We had some cancellations happening, some pivots that we had to make, and it's like a day in our life, bro.
Yeah, I know.
It's
just there's those just a little frustrating.
Yeah.
I'll also put that into the fact that I'm really tired.
Yeah, you just came back from
I've got
Colorado.
A headache too, by the way. So if anybody, God, I hope people are listening.
They are.
People listening in.
They might be like,
my podcast voice doesn't sound as good as it usually does. And it's because I've been in the 103-degree temperatures for the last 4 days. So I've noticed over the last 12 hours that the whole entire nostril vocal shit, it's all messed up.
It's all right, bro. It's okay.
I don't sound as good as you anymore. That's what I'm supposed to be saying.
You never did, first and foremost. But remember the color lines, all right?
I thought this was supposed to be making me feel better.
Yeah. Oh, yes, but I don't want to give you no false illusions here.
Okay.
All right. But
so anyway, to get back to the point, we're pivoting today.
Yes.
Because we had some cancellations, which is fine. That happens in show business.
And it happens in real life, man.
It happens in real life.
Jeez, it's just what it is, dude.
As business owners, we have to pivot our asses off
left and right.
That's what we're doing again today.
And we make it look good when we do it. We make it look if there was no cancellation, and then when we get egg on our face, we take it like a champ, dude. It's just who we are as individuals, brother.
I make pivoting look good.
Oh, dude, you do. That I'll give you. I will give you. It's something about the white privilege aspect of you that makes it just look like this was planned all along.
This was planned.
And you're literally pulling the freaking idea out of your ass.
We'll go wrong with that.
I stutter and fumble still. The hood in me is, this was supposed to happen. Everybody knows that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But today we're going to pivot and we're going to talk about you.
I love talking about myself.
Do you?
How much time do we have today?
Dude, I got about an hour, bro. So you're screwed. 45 minutes at that point.
So what part of my life do you want to talk? Do you want to talk about the teenage years, my growing up? Do you want to talk about what do you want to hear? Because we've only got an hour. So, dude. Actually, at this point, we probably only got 50 minutes. So... So you're going to have to pick and choose what you want to hear, or it's just going to have to be a streamline.
Since we're pivoting, and I'm not as good as pivoting that you are, right? But at the end of the day, I want to get your origin story. So many people know who I am as a person, and I think a lot of people know who you are as a person. They don't know how you came about, man. What was your upbringing? I know you were in the Midwest, right? And you grew up in, I don't know, I envision you growing up like on a farm somewhere, bro.
You wouldn't be that far off.
Yeah. And then I want to spend a little bit of time of understanding your upbringing, your childhood. I know you went to college. I know you started several businesses. I know you had failed businesses, which I do want to get into, right? And the struggles you've had as an entrepreneur. But primarily, give me your Tinder profile of your childhood, bro.
Is that illegal to do?
No, it's not, because we're not soliciting sex here, bro. We're not soliciting sex here, bro. This is not. No.
I would say, if I had to sum it up, country bumpkin seeking city life that wants to be his own person.
Okay.
And in short, that's the way I probably can sum it up the best.
So that's your catch line right there.
In a sense, maybe.
Yeah.
It's funny. For anybody listening that grows up in rural areas, right? You know how hard it is to get out of those rural areas. So I grew up in a town outside of Peoria, Illinois, which is about 1,400 people. Princeville, Illinois.
Princeville? It sounds hicky, bro.
Yeah. It's not as posh as Princeville, Hawaii. I wish it was. But it's a country town, bunch of farmers. And not to say that I grew up on a farm. My parents actually have 9 acres of property that they rent 6 acres out to the second largest Clydesdale farm in the country.
Wow.
So a lot of Budweiser horses come from this farm. Yeah.
Nobody knows that about you, bro.
Yeah. So it's interesting in the fact that's what I grew up with. And and the people that do know me know that I have a huge fear of horses.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I don't like
Wait. So I want to tap into that a little bit, because your wife loves horses, bro.
Yeah. So quick story on that. She, for her birthday 2 years ago, I guess it would have been 2023, January. I decided I was going to, I'm going to do something special. She's been wanting to go right back to riding horses. So I took her out to Temecula to do this horseback riding deal. And it was tied to some wine tasting. At that time, she didn't even know how fearful I was of horses. And it's not, they're great animals, but they're fucking huge.
But you're not so small yourself, buddy.
So we get there, and she's all, petting and lovey-dovey. And I am just like, just barely tap. She can just pet it, like, just get you up. It's like,
You gotta kiss it. You gotta love it.
And then she gets on. She takes off, and she's with the tour guide or whatever. And luckily there's another woman in our group of 6 that was just as fearful as I was. So the two of us were sitting in the back of the pack, like, you don't have to run. Like, let's just trot.
You're on a horse.
Oh yeah, we're on a horse.
You're on a horse. So, you're talking about facing your fears.
Yeah. So I'm on this goddamn thing, and it's an older horse. It's very stubborn, so it doesn't really want to go to. And they try it
similar to your
kind of, yeah.
Kindred spirits. Go ahead.
So we go around, we circle around the winery, and then all of a sudden the tour guide was like, "Okay, see that hill up there? We're going to ride up that hill." And I'm like, "What?" So he goes off, and then Des goes off, and I'm looking at this thing. I'm like got this horse on a full stop, and she's, you gotta get it, come out. I was like, so the horse starts running up this hill, and I'm just like, the entire time.
You're like, where's the steering wheel and the signal lights?
Where's the steering? I was like, can I just jump off? Can I just can I just jump off and just walk the horse up the hill? Because I don't. So we got up the hill, and I was like, cool that we did that. Like I was like, oh, this is great, but at the same time, I'm like, this is terrible. I had a good time. Overall, I had a good time with it. Yes, that was one of my, we talked about the 5 fears a while ago, and that was one of my fears that I honestly, to this day, you talk about how you'd probably go back and jump off that bridge again. I don't know if I'd ever get back on a horse again. Not to say that I have full respect for animals that are that size, and they are great animals. I just don't know if I ever want to be back on them.
Where does that come from, though?
I don't know. Honestly,
you had Clydesdales on your property, right, when you were growing up, or is that not the case?
Yes and no. Like the Clydesdale farm didn't really show up until later on.
Okay.
A lot of the land that my parents had was farmland, so they rented it out to farmers, like corn and beans. Got it. So a lot of the Clydesdale stuff didn't show up until later on, like when I was just getting ready to graduate high school or going into college. It started showing up that way. But so to get back to that point, like when we talk about the rural kid aspect of it, like I went to college, played basketball for a couple years. I went back, and then I left after I got my ACL injured, went to Western Illinois, and again, rural community. So there's not really getting into big city life. And it's one of those things I think that I always missed when I was, growing up, is I was always going to Peoria to hang out because I wanted to be in that big city life. And I told my parents right away, I was like, I'm not going to stick around here. This is not for me. And my mom was like, yeah, whatever. Like, you'll be in Peoria. Whatever.
You're going to be working at the local gas station.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that was the case, but she never really saw me like wanting to actually leave Illinois in general, let alone Peoria. So when I got done with college, I was like, there's a lot in that. It depends on how much do you want to get into.
Well, go ahead, man. I'm letting you flow, bro. You do you.
So I think what was really cool in the fact that where I went to school, Western Illinois, at the time, and that's not the way now because the program is so expansive now, but Western Illinois was one of only 4 universities in the country that offered sports management as a program, and they only offered it as a graduate program. So I already knew right then and there that I was like, if I want to go into sports management, I'm going to have to do extra education. And so I'm terrible at school. I hate school. Like I
would never know that, dude, just because of the way you like to learn.
Yeah, I think it was because I didn't really like learning in the class setting,
in the confines of a class.
Yeah, it was tough. Like my grades were terrible. Like I literally almost flunked out a couple times. Like it was like I had to wean in really fast. Like you're gonna suck it up and do this, or you're not, and you're not gonna go. I think there's those times in life where you meet the right people at the right time in your life to help move you forward. Right?
I attribute our relationship to that statement right there, buddy.
So I have a few regrets on this individual, and I have the most admiration. The fact that one, Joe Protzman was the assistant athletic director at the university at the time. So let's just, I didn't have any connection with the sports area whatsoever from a participation standpoint. He was big on a lot of stuff he did was with the football program and everything else, but he owned a local bar in town that was right next to campus.
What was the name of the bar?
It was called the Purple Pride. Yeah.
Okay.
How are you thinking of?
All right, go ahead, bro.
Anyway, university.
Just tell me there was no assless chaps involved, bro.
No, there was not. Colors of the school were gold.
Got it. Go ahead.
Purple Pride. It was on campus.
Okay.
Whatever. Anyway. Right. So I was looking for a job at this point. Okay, I just need to make some money. I got introduced to Joe at the bar from friends of mine who were regulars at the bar. I started talking to him, and I started just having the conversation of what I wanted to do. When we were,
how old are you at this point?
I would have been 21, 22. Like I had just turned 21 when I got to Western. Yeah, I just turned 21 when I got to Western. We started going out, and this bar happened to be like right down the street from my house too, or my apartment. So we started going and hanging out, and Joe was always there every night, making sure. And he was a vital part of his own business. Like he's not one of those bar owners that would go and just leave it.
Right.
So I ended up having a conversation with him, and he's like, "Do you want a job?" And I was like, "Great, yes." So I became a bouncer there, and it came time for my undergrad program was coming to an end. I shit you not. I graduated undergrad with a 1.6 GPA. I shit you not.
just go ahead, pass him through.
So like I said, I'm terrible at school.
Yeah.
Like I just never wanted to sit in the school. But my problem is I needed to go to grad school to get sports management. And a lot of the classes you take in general ed, like I think I've had this conversation with a few people. I don't know if it's been on this show or not, but I think a lot of the general ed classes in college are bullshit.
100%.
I don't need to take fucking calculus as a gen ed.
Yeah. Well, you and I have had that conversation about how the school system's fucking wacky that way.
So a lot of that goes into it. You shouldn't be forced to take general education classes if those are some of the things that you don't really want to do.
Correct.
So that was, I think, in my brain when I was growing up, it's like, why should I have to take a biology class, or why should I have to take this or that, right? Because I'm not going into that stuff. I don't really need to know that stuff.
Real quick to pause. Why were you trying to get into sports management early on? What was the idea behind that?
So I wanted to work for a professional sports team.
Okay.
Which I'll get to in just a second. But that's where my brain was. I wanted to work for a professional sports team. Don't really know where that was.
It didn't matter what sport. You just wanted to work with.
Yeah, I just wanted to work for a professional sports team. NBA would have been great just because of my basketball background. But at the same time, if somebody in NHL and hockey called me up, I'd be like, all right, well, let's
I'll take it. Yeah.
So wanted to be sports management. So I was talking to Joe at the bar one night, and he was telling me, he was asking me like, hey, what do you want to do? What's the next step? And I told him like, I'd like to get into grad school, but I fuck myself. And I will always be grateful because Joe made a call to the dean of that department or whatever it was, and wrote this long reference letter for me.
That's cool.
And he brought me in, and he was like, hey, I need to tell you something. I got you into grad school on a probationary deal. He's like, if you get 1C, you're out. I shit you not. So he told me, I'll be watching your grades. If you get 1C, people know I've pretty much told everybody that this is what's happening. You're probationary, whatever. So I looked at it. I was like, holy shit. Okay.
About fucking take a shit or get off the pot.
Yeah. So one, again, eternal gratitude for Joe for doing that. And it led to the fact that I started taking classes I really wanted to.
Yeah.
It was like how to run a facility, how to run a health club, sports law, right? Sports nutrition. And it came down to all of the stuff and I think the hardest class that we had to take was statistics. Again, a math related deal, which I'm not good at all.
But I can see where that could apply in managing a sports.
Oh, no, I totally get the fact that was probably my hardest class was that. And I had again, you meet the right people at the right time. I had somebody who was a statistics professor who tutored me while I was doing classes, and they helped out. So that helped me out. But so I ended up getting a job at a health club. So I was a personal trainer for a while in Peoria What's
a while, dude?
2 years. It would have been 2 years. Yeah. It was my last semester. It was the summer after I got done with undergrad. Into grad school, I actually worked at night at a health club as a personal trainer from 5 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night when the club closed. And then I'd get up the next morning, drive to school for 3 or 4 hours, drive back, go right to work. And this whole entire time, I'm like, you talk about not wanting to, I don't want to learn through classes and stuff, but I was having to do homework at the gym while there was nobody there.
Yeah.
I'd have to get up or I'd have to either get up early in the morning, like at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, do all my studies, and then drive to school, drive back. And so it was like this whole entire compiling on top of one another as far as that goes. But when it's all said and done, I got done with grad school with a 3.0
okay
GPA. So it was one of those things where I think I just needed the right buttons to be pushed and the right motivation to do it. Again, it got me into things that I wanted to do.
I think
that says a lot about if anybody is trying to figure out what it is they want, then I needed to know, okay, I needed to take a sports law class to actually understand that I actually enjoyed it. Not that I wanted to be a lawyer by any means, but they make you take a sports law class in case you want to become a sports agent. So it was those type of things. And the professors there were like, we didn't even talk about law stuff. We talked about, I think at the time it was in the NHL when the one player swung his stick and hit that guy in the face. Yeah. And there was this huge deal in the sport about it. And so that's what we had the conversation about the entire, it was that and another deal. So we never even went into the law stuff. It was all about make your case for this or that.
That's cool.
It was really cool. So it became this very fun learning, and I didn't really know that until I got into it. So again, forever grateful for Joe. And I say there's some regrets with it too. Joe passed away years ago when I had moved to Boulder, and I didn't take the time to go to his funeral. And to this day, I regret it. And 100%. And I have been back to Macomb, where this university was, and I've gone to I've gone to see his grave and stuff or whatever and pay my respects. But still to this day, it's like, I think it's one of my biggest regrets in life. It sucks because he did so much that I couldn't spend the $500 to get a flight back, and I couldn't spend the time. And at the time I was so focused on I was living in Boulder. Again, I was a personal trainer at a gym there, trying to get this. I was working for a sports marketing company at the time. So I was doing 2 jobs, and I was just trying to become successful with it, learn the ways of it. And I just didn't take the time for it. That's what sucks.
I think circumstances, they come up, dude, and those situations come up. But I can honestly say there's a couple of regrets in my life in that respect. But I think ultimately, dude, as long as I'm a firm believer that if you have somebody like that in your life, and I've come across several people in my life that have been great mentors to me, right? Even getting into logistics when there was a guy named Joe Dacong, similar scenario, dude, where he just took the time and he pushed me to a point of discomfort or a challenge, if you will. And I don't know where Joe Dacong is at, but I know his name, and he's a part of me, and he's part of my legacy. He's part of who I am. And so I think this guy's the same thing for you. And I also think that paying your respects doesn't necessarily have to be in person.
No, I would agree with that. But I think the family knowing, they weren't blind to the fact that he helped me
100%
get in there. So I think it's also, I have regrets because I didn't show the family to some degree to how much I respected him and appreciated what he did.
Yeah.
And I that's one of those things. And I don't have any connection with his family whatsoever. It was one of those in passing type of deals. So I couldn't call the sons afterwards and whatever. So it was really tough that way. I truly believe what you said. It's you don't necessarily need to go in person to pay your respects because people know. But I think from a visual standpoint, I think sometimes that's also respectful to show that. But
it does, for sure it does. But at the end of the day, dude, those people, his family, I guarantee you know who he was and how many people he's probably done that for.
Yeah.
And so
I'm sure I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he obviously had stuck his neck out for somebody like that in the past. And I think that was one of those things that was, aside from father or some of my uncles or family members, male family members, I think Joe was probably the first non-family male that I looked at and I was like, okay, yeah, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
And dude, and so you fast forwarded into college and your relationship with Joe, which is, by the way, very awesome that somebody like that can come into your life and push you to that edge or push you to the point of discomfort and make you, and then hold you accountable, make you do the things that you really don't want to do. Yeah. And I think you and I do very well, but surrounding ourselves with individuals like that. But The one thing that I know about you is that you have this crazy work ethic, dude. I think that's where you and I we got all this shit going on. And when you and I get in the gym or we get in the mic, it's always like bitch fest of what we got to get done. And never do we shy away from doing that thing that we have to do, that we roll our eyes with, and we get to do this. And you and I one time had a vent fest about being an entrepreneur, right? And we have this you got back just showing up. I got fucking Stripe issues. People are not I can't pay my bills right now. We're broke and all that shit. But where do you attribute your work ethic and where it came from, dude?
I think I like to fathom it after like the Midwest mentality.
Yeah.
I think I say this to this day, and I tell anybody who asks, I always say the same thing. I truly appreciate where I grew up.
Okay.
Would I ever live back in the Midwest? Probably not. It's just not my scene. But I truly appreciate the fact that I grew up in a rural town. I grew up in the Midwest. I think the mentality of the Midwest worker and the work ethic there says a lot, and the values that families bring up their kids with. So that's part of it. I also know full well that my dad his work ethic is by far superior than anything I've ever seen. He was nonstop working to make sure that he's providing for the family and making sure that my brother and myself and my mom always had food on the table and a place to live and everything else. So I look at that as a kid growing up, and okay, I
you have a role model.
You're right. You have a role model. Again, like I said, it's like my dad was my first role model. I learned a lot from him in the sense of not only just the work ethic and stuff, but he was the factory manager at a food canning company.
Okay.
So he would hire.
What was the food they were canning? Any foods? All foods?
Mostly vegetables, right? So at that time, that plant was the second largest canning facility for pumpkins in Illinois, and I think they were the number one for asparagus in Illinois. I think. I
didn't even know they sold canned asparagus, but go ahead, bro.
I don't know if it's a thing anymore. It definitely was. Yeah. So one of the times he hired my brother and I to mow the lawn at the
factory.
Yes, we would go there and mow the lawn, and the moment I think the most fearful I've ever been of my father is I mowed the grass uneven. Right?
First of all, go ahead.
So if you don't know what I mean.
I don't, dude. I mean, no, homeboy from the hood, bro. Remember that. There was no lawns in my neighborhood, bro. It was all dirt and rock.
Yeah. There's the settings on the wheels. So you can go down on the mower or you can go up. So you don't have, it's not going to be a short.
Got it.
So I adjusted the wheels so they were off balance. So one side.
So the lawn was like at an angle?
Yeah. So when you go and do your lines, like you could see where the lines are because it mows at an angle. So everything is like.
You see, when you see the term do lines, dude, I think automatically drugs, bro.
That's where your brain goes. But I get done mowing and I thought I did a great job. I had no idea. Like, I'm a stupid kid. I don't know. But my dad knows that I know better. And so I go in and he's in.
Were you just in a rush? What?
No, I don't know.
They weren't thinking? You just said, fuck it, let's just get over it?
Man, all I had was girls and going to the pool.
Yeah, baby, yeah. Whatever, right? Basketball girls and going to the pool.
I was at that point where I wasn't old enough to drive. Like, he would bring the lawnmower to the factory for me. I would take it out of his truck, load it back up when I was done, whatever. I go into his office and I don't remember the actual language that was said or what I said to him, but I said something in front of his 3 employees that the fear of God was about to happen. And he took me outside and he was like, "Don't you ever fucking do that again."
Oh shit.
Never. And at that moment, 'cause I knew right when I did it that I was like, "Oh shit, I just said that in front of his so I'm like, fuck." So yeah, that right there, I never did anything like that ever again. I was like, this is, and but that's, to go back to it, I think his work ethic and to see how my grandfather was and some of my uncles and everything else, and then add on the Midwest side of things. I think that's where I attribute the work ethic to.
Yeah. But I think mirroring is so important. You and I have had the conversation about me growing up and going, I was starving for a mentor or somebody to mirror growing up. And I think there's something to be said about role models in your upbringing that really do give you the vision or the personality that you've come up with. But even though I know a lot of people that have great mentors, man, and great role models that are not great guys. And so like you had to do something with it, not to take away from what Joe and your dad and your uncles and your grandfather have all added to you as a person and as a man. Yeah. Kudos to Joe and your dad and everybody else, because you're a pretty solid dude, man. But so fast forward it, did you ever work for a team?
Did I ever work for
managing a sports team?
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we go.
So I think I got lucky enough that one of my instructors, and I don't necessarily remember the instructor's name nor the class that he taught, but he was very good about always, listening to students and what they wanted to do with their life. And he knew a lot of people. It was like one of those I'm connected type of things. And I don't like to talk about it, but I am. And so I was after class one day, I was chatting with him about what I wanted to do and this and that. And what should I go about? What's the process I should go about talking to a professional sports team if I want to go in and do an internship and everything else? Fast forward 4 months down the road, and we're getting ready to graduate, figuring out the internship. So in grad school, you could either do your thesis or whatever, or you can do an internship. I decided I wanted to do intern because I wanted the infield first practice.
Yeah.
He ended up helping me get a interview with the Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
And at the same time, I was still doing the fitness thing, and I had a job opportunity or an interview or intern opportunity in Boulder at a health club there. I'm definitely going to check out this Pacers thing. This is dream job. This is Larry Bird is the coach.
Okay.
Reggie Miller is
you got some
big names with this thing, and it would have been in the I can't remember the name of it. It was court operations, I think. So when you go to a sports game and there's during timeouts, there's always fan interaction. It would
cheerleaders.
It would have been one of those, hey, you're going to be on the team that puts together all the games and stuff, right? Which would have been great. That would have been fun. But I got done with that interview. I don't know. I think there's a couple things. One of it, I was married at the time, going through a really tough time with my marriage.
This is not your current.
This is not my current. So
by the way, when did you get married? During grad school or after grad school?
I got married right after undergrad.
Oh, okay.
So I was married during. So we talk about working, going to school at the same time. I was also married. Ooh. And my ex-wife was not a private detective. She was a detective for the state's attorney for Illinois. So she had she's
a cop.
Yeah.
You can never lie to her, bro.
And there's a long story with that.
Never marry a detective unless you're truly honest.
There's a long story with that I won't go into, but that relationship didn't go as planned. Mm-hmm. It took us getting married to figure that out. At this all accumulating at the same time, right? The marriage is not going really well. Mm-hmm. I'm working, still trying to figure out internship. I've got an internship opportunity in Boulder. Now I've got this internship interview in Indiana. There's also those times in life when you're just like, you want to do something, but you don't know if this is really right at the right moment for you. Oh, yeah. And there's something that subconsciously you do to be like, all right, I don't really know if this is really what I want. And so there's those things that pull you away from it. So I get this interview opportunity with the Indiana Pacers. I go to Indianapolis and I'm late for the interview.
It's safe to say you didn't get the job?
I was late for the interview on purpose.
Oh, dude. Yeah. You're like self-sabotaging at the time.
It was one of those things, like I was at my buddy's house and we were sitting there talking about it. And I just told him, I was like, this is dream job, but it's not the dream location. Right. And I look at it in two different ways.
Was part of that because of your relationship and what was happening there?
Oh yeah. There is definitely some of that. I think the relationship was so bad that I I was also mentally just out of it. And I didn't, knowing full well that I didn't want to live in Illinois or the Midwest anymore. And I wanted to go see other things.
So your wife was in the Midwest as well?
Yeah, she's no longer there. She's remarried and has kids out in Pennsylvania now. But she was there. And it was one of those things, like if I knew that if I stayed in the Midwest, I'm somehow always going to go back to see my parents. I'm probably going to see her. And it was one of these things where I think I just needed that change. And knowing full well that Boulder was already a lock, I had already been offered.
Yeah.
I think in my brain, I got to Indianapolis and I was like, I just don't know if I want to be here. So I pretty much showed up late on purpose. Now they did the interview, everything. They had told me, they called me up a couple of days later and they're like, hey, one of the intern positions is yours if you want it. And I was just like, no, I can't
pass.
I pass.
Wow.
I'd already accepted. They called me like maybe 2 days after the interview. And I literally, the next day I did that interview, I called the facility in Boulder. I'm coming out. I'll be out in August.
Wow.
And so I knew, I think it was just one of those things where, and I don't know, there's always that 2020. Like you always want to go back. And like,
hindsight's always so clear, bro. What would it been like?
When it's all said and done, man, like the experiences that I had in Boulder and the opportunity, and now looking into it now, like the job opportunity that I still have in Boulder, that's what made the big thing. I think it was just taking that leap and just being like, I need something different. I need to conquer this fear of moving and getting out of the stipulation of small Midwest kid never fucking leaves. Yeah. Right. And not to put anything down for anybody who stays in the Midwest. Like, you have to want to get it. You have to want to move and have to just do it. And I've got a lot of high school friends that still live there and are very successful and enjoy it and happy. And I don't take anything away from them on that. It was just for me, I was like, I cannot be here. And I think just taking that leap of like, I have never lived outside of this 2-hour radius of my parents' house. And so it was like, I need to do that. I need to see what this is all about. If I'm going to move forward with my life, this is where I need to go.
I think where we come from is a lot of who we are and who we become. However, I don't think you truly show who your true potential is until you get out of that arena and you actually practice the values and the experiences that you have growing up, dude. I'm relating to you so much right now, dude, because I can sit there and tell you, dude, that homeboys from the hood don't grow up to own businesses. And I can say that you didn't have that same experience, but you did. And so like, I was never supposed to leave my neighborhood, dude. Yeah. I was supposed to die or go to, and if I did leave my neighborhood, it was because I was in a prison somewhere. Once I realized that I was going to be a dad at 16 years old, I think that was my first glimpse of going, shit, I got to get out of the hood. Anything was on the table for that point. And I think you passing the job with the Pacers was your way of saying, I can do this. It wasn't even about the dream job. It was about really being true to who you were and who you wanted to be. Mm-hmm. That was the truth, I think, in my case, right? And from what I'm hearing, right, you're like, I got to get the hell out of here. I've always wanted to get out of small towns. Nobody ever leaves these small towns. Watch me do this. Yeah. I don't care if I have this ideal job, this dream job. Like, there's nothing, and that goes to, again, back to who you are as a person now, dude. Us starting this podcast, right? It was like, oh, you know what? Fucking, you got the fares. Let's go fucking do this shit. Yeah. Next thing you know, you're like, hey, I already got 2 mics, bro. And I already got switchboard. And I'm like, fuck, this shit's going to happen, right? But that's who you are. And I think it's because you have that mentality of, I got to get the fuck out of small town.
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about being a business owner. Like, I think the first couple of years, my mom comes to visit here in San Diego, and she's like, why did you even want to become a business owner? What made you?
We ask ourselves that question every day, bro.
Why? I don't really ever see you, because not a lot of my family members own their own business. There is some of the business owners in my family. My dad worked for a major corporation. My mom worked for the hospital. So there was never this
entrepreneur.
I never really grew up with the entrepreneur aspect in front of me. And my mom was always like, why? And I don't really remember the full answer that I gave her, but I think it came down to, and I'd still tell her the same thing today. It's like, it just comes down to, I always wanted to try something different. I always knew that I wanted to work for myself and not for anybody else, because I want any success I have, I want it to be
because of
self-made and created, right? From that perspective. And I want to be able to grow something and see it grow and not have it be somebody else's in the long term. Right. And that's what I would say, that same thing if she asked me again today. That's what I would tell her. And I think that's probably what somewhere close to what I told her at that point in time. But I think I had to, you talk about successful businesses. Yes, I've had some failures along the way too. And just to bump it forward, like that was at the time where my business was like, and I think she could see me like struggling with some of that stuff.
So tell us about that first business. You got the job, you're in Boulder, you're working as a trainer. When did you decide to start your first business? So Boulder's interesting. And it's funny that I was actually talking to my buddy in Colorado 2 days ago about this when I was at his house. And we were both trying to remember the times we had in Boulder. And we were both like, I don't really remember much. I think I had just gotten divorced. I was just out of college. And it was... Did your wife move with you to Boulder, dude?
No, we got separated beforehand, and it was one of those things. Once I was there, the official decision was made to get divorced. Once I was there, I was like, I'm never coming back. So Boulder is pretty much a blur for me. I don't really remember too much of Boulder. What I do remember is the fact that, again, I met the right people at the right time that gave me the right opportunity, and that's the beauty of.
And you did something with it.
Yeah, it's the beauty of you meet the right people in certain situations that you don't really think are going to be a big deal. And we've said this already. But it was the right moment where the buddy I was just talking about in Colorado, I met at the gym because I trained one of his friends, and she introduced us, and we started hanging out, playing basketball together in rec leagues, going up to the mountains together, whatever. So we became really good friends. He's still one of my closest friends to this day. And he, at the time, was working for a sports marketing company as the VP. And he was like, I started just asking questions about it. What do you guys do? It was in a realm where I didn't know anything about it. It's about the endurance category, running, cycling, triathlon. Guess what, everybody?
This is the beginning of ERS.
So I know
basketball
nothing.
Player, fucking trainer.
At the time, the marketing company he was working with did a lot of consulting with brands to go out and activate sponsorships and everything else at events. I didn't know anything about cycling. So the office, when I got hired on by that group to come in and just part-time help out here and there, knew nothing about it. So I asked him to take me over to the cycling shop next door and teach me about brakes and brake discs and gears and like all that stuff.
What year is this and how old are you?
This would have been when I moved there, 01. So this would have been like 02.
Okay.
And at the time I would have been, I don't know, 25, 26, 26. And no, is that right? Shit, I don't know. I'm fast math right now. I don't know. My brain is not.
It's half the age you are today, bro. So yeah,
anyway,
let's call it 24.
It was 2000. It was 2002, 2003.
Okay.
So I'm now in the sports marketing deal, learning that. I ended up leaving the gym that I was working at and became full-time for this sports marketing company.
So you were a trainer for, I don't know, 4 years, I'm hearing? 5 years? 4 years?
I was a trainer for 2.5 years in Peoria. And another, it would have been, it was a full-time trainer for 3 years, and then I became a part-time trainer. So I was a trainer for almost 7 years.
Wow.
That's all said and
Fun
done.
fact, you guys, but go ahead.
Not a calling that I really ever thought that was going to be.
Yeah.
It was more of the fitness director mentality. Like I was there to do a lot of the back end work, and then I had clients on the second side, and so I ended up pretty much slowly but surely tapering off of that. And I told the gym, I was like, hey, I'm going to start doing part-time because I want to work over here, and it allowed me to keep my clientele and everything else. And so it was nice in that sense that I had the opportunity to now start working in a position where I was like, oh, this is really cool. It's like in sports, and I'm going to some of the largest endurance events in the country. It's still learning as we go. And then finally, the owner of that company was like, hey, I've got a position in Oakland available to run that office over there. And I was like, fucking Oakland.
Oh, so, no, shout out to Oakland. I'm not going to say anything bad, but go ahead.
So I was like, screw this. I'm going to California. And because again, I told my parents a long time ago, I'm like, hey, I want to live in San Diego. So I know
Oakland's
San Diego,
a far cry from San Diego, bro.
But in the same token, I was like, I got to get to California. So then from California, it makes it a lot quicker to get down to San Diego. So got to Oakland, was there for 6 months. The company sold, they released my position. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to San Diego. And there lies...
Where did you get the jump from Oakland to San Diego? After they closed down the business, you were like, fuck it, I'm going to San Diego?
At the time, I was dating somebody in San Diego. I had met somebody in San Diego. I was like, this is great. I want to... This is still not Des. No, right. So it was...
Des?
Yeah. So I was dating somebody there. I was like, I'm going to use this to get down to San Diego. Oh, yeah, I'm dating somebody down there. I've got somebody that I'm connected to, whatever. Mm-hmm. Get down there. And as most of these type of stories go, you move for somebody and we broke up like literally like a month later.
Wow.
Which again was the right play overall. In that same token, when I was moving there, I started my own business and I was like, I already know a lot about what we were doing as a business. Mm-hmm. And at the time, the owner knew that I helped bring on Jelly Belly as a client. Mm-hmm. So as we found out in earlier episodes, like Jelly Belly had been a client for mine for 17 years. And, and it was because I helped start that relationship. And then when the company sold, the old owner was like, hey, listen, I'm not going to tell him that Jelly Belly, I'm going to tell him that Jelly Belly is no longer with us. So that's not part of the deal. He told me to call these people. Reaffirm that you're doing this, because he knew what I was trying to do. And from that moment, I kept working with Jelly Belly. Now, Jelly Belly was what kept the business pretty much going. Started a marketing business doing the same exact thing, moved out of Oakland to get down to San Diego, and just as a business owner, you're just trying to make deals and moves and stuff to keep you going. And it was a lot. It was a huge learning process with how that started. And starting, as you found out, like starting up the legal side of the business and all of those details. Like I knew nothing. Yeah. When it came down to that, I was like, what do I do? Okay. What
the business is Jeff Stoner.
I can fast forward through a few things, but that business started as the brand From Downtown Marketing.
That's the name of the company?
That was the name of the company.
From Downtown Marketing.
So FDT. And it was a couple different scenarios. One, the concept came to me while I was living in downtown Oakland. Two, when I was playing basketball, that's the way I played. And so I was like, it's a mix. And it had kind of a basketball theme to it and whatever. And I was eventually wanting to do basketball stuff. And that's where the failure of the business comes in. But that's where the name of the first business was, or the original name of the business actually still to this day still stands. It's had a few iterations as far as the name goes. I moved to PB, started the business.
Which, for the listeners, PB
Pacific Beach
is a party town and not very conducive to starting a business.
It's a rite of passage.
If you're not familiar with San Diego, you stay the hell out of PB unless you want to get drunk and meet somebody that you're probably not going to know after a couple weeks.
Which is where I met my wife.
Yes. That's exactly why I said that. But go ahead. But you're in PV. You got downtown.
So from there, that brand stayed for a while.
And that brand is the one that kind of launched with Jelly Belly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that brand stayed a while. The whole entire concept of that brand was to actually do some stuff where it was, yes, consulting with Jelly Belly, but also I had this concept of wanting to start an adult basketball tournament for money. Like different regions come out and you win your region, you get a chance to go and play in a bigger region, and it's more money on top of it. Years later, and not to say that I'm sure this concept, now they've got the $1 million the basketball tournament.
The basketball tournament
is what they call it. And it's $1 million prize, right?
Yeah.
And that was my original concept before the basketball tournament ever came around. And I was like, and now to this day, I'm like, fuck, I knew I had something.
Too late.
But the execution was the bad thing.
Yeah.
That's where everything fell through. Is I just didn't have the right execution. And that's where I learned a lot of stuff that put into my business today is when and how to talk to potential sponsors, what the process is for getting a permit and talking to places to rent and the advertise, like the steps of the advertising. So pretty much what I tried to do is I was like, I'm going to do this tournament. I didn't really have any of the registration set up because it's like the chicken before the egg.
Yeah.
Like you've got to have your location, you got to have your advertising. Then all of a sudden you got to get people to start signing up for it. I also, from a timeline perspective, I was trying to do it within 6 months. And versus, okay, 2 years from now, we're going to do this. This is what's going to look like. This is where we're going to advertise. This is how we're going to do registrations. So I didn't know any of this. So I was flying by the seat of my pants. I ended up getting a company to actually create uniform, like jerseys and stuff for me.
Okay.
Without even having anything ready. I talked to the Champion Systems was the company, and they're huge in the cycling industry, or used to be. I'm sure if I ever ran into the owner today, he'd probably tell me I'm still probably the joke of the company that somehow I talked them into creating uniforms for teams.
Teams that don't even exist.
Exactly. So
that's like saying I want to open up a gym but don't have a gym or even equipment. But go ahead.
So that was the case. So I went through this whole entire process. I lost my ass. Like I literally was because all these facilities want you to pay rental fees up front or a portion of it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, my brain was like, you know what? If this is going to go, it's going to go in the Midwest. Like if it can't fly in the Midwest, why is it going to fly anywhere else? Right. So I went to Columbus, Chicago, Indianapolis. I was down in Kentucky. I think, I was down in Louisville.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where I was renting all these facilities and talking to these places, and I was like, wait, hold on. I'm how far in debt with this?
Wow.
Shit. And my parents had chipped in. My parents chipped in $20K or whatever. So that's the thing. Like you see this money going out and I'm like, fuck. So it finally got to a point where I had no money left. I was just like, I don't know what to do. So I was in the hole by a lot and trying to pay bills. Credit card debt I was paying everything on credit card. Trying to pay cash. And at the same time, I'm still trying to navigate the small section of business that actually was doing something.
Jelly Belly.
But Jelly Belly wasn't bringing in enough money to cover
the other stuff.
And nor should the Jelly Belly stuff cover any of that. So it was one of these things where I was like, I can't manage it. So I filed for bankruptcy. Now, that's an interesting deal. And that could be a complete different conversation because bankruptcy is a crock of shit in a sense.
Yeah.
But it's also a lifesaver in it. Yeah. And so it's one of those.
You was at Chapter 11?
Yeah. And so I filed all that stuff. I got rid of all my debt and I pretty much started from scratch. I was like, okay, here's, the business still stands.
Did you still keep the name after that or did you change the name?
I still kept the name.
Okay.
I still kept the name and just kept on going forward with it. Eventually the name got changed to Seasick Marketing and it was a marketing situation that we tried to attempt with playing off the San Diego side of things. And we were doing some stuff at that time. We were doing some stuff in the surfing industry. So we were trying to play off the terminology.
Seasick Marketing. Got it.
And then it became this whole entire, Seasick is a weird name, whatever. And so that stuck around for a while. We built the business back up and did a lot more stuff with Jelly Belly. We got a lot more clientele. So we were doing 30, 40 events a year.
With Jelly Belly, surfing.
Yeah. The surfing thing stopped in 2010 because I lost my ass on that. I got fucked by some of the sponsors. And the sponsors are no longer around. I won't call their names out, but fuck them.
Yeah.
They truly fucked me. And they,
tell me how you really feel, Jeff.
And the individuals that tried to bring on the sponsors to help me out truly fuck me. Like
those are like the relationships that you don't want to.
I let a lot of things go, and I'm like, it's not good to keep on with those things.
Absolutely.
But the way I was looked at in in that community, it changed. So it was looked down upon a little bit. It was like, oh, this guy owes X amount of money. Like we didn't get paid out for this. And this, and like, well, sponsors never paid me what they were contracted to do. Those sponsors are no longer in business. So it was one of those things like, so I tried to pay off the purse prizes a little bit at a time. Like I had this payment plan with the community, and I finally was like, I'm going back into debt because I'm paying for. So I finally told the serving organization, I can't do it. I am sorry, and I feel bad, but I can't go broke again. And I called a lot of the surfers that I owed money to, and I explained the situation, and most everybody was really cool with it. They're like, we get it, whatever, it's fine. At this point in time, it'd been like 4 years. So I was trying to pay this shit off. So 4 years goes by, and I'm still like $200 here, $500 here.
Yeah, whatever you could do.
Whatever I could do. And I was like, I just can't do it. And I still owed, I don't know, $7,000, $8,000.
Wow.
I do. So we got out of that really quick. As soon as I figured out that they were not going to do anything to help out, I was like, oh, fuck this. This is not working for me. So that's where we got out of it. Seasick, then just focused on consulting side of things. And then back in 2012, so 2010 is when the surfing thing, we squashed it. We were like, I finally had to call, like what really finally nailed was like nail in the coffin was when we were doing an event up in Oceanside and we didn't have the purse prize.
Fuck.
And I called my grandfather.
Wow.
And I was like, I definitely do not want to do this.
But I have to
just to make it, because that was like the last event that we were going to do. And I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
So
I'm done.
I did that. He was nice enough to loan me the money to do that.
How big was the purse?
It was $8,000. So he paid the purse for it. And it was one of those things I looked at. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
So you're like, dude, you're telling the story, dude, but you're such a man of integrity, man. I watched you. Something went awry at one of your races, and it was like a turn. Something so simple. I remember this last year at one of your races, somebody moved a sign and they like ran the wrong path and it changed things. And you had some racers that weren't happy. And I'm going to tell the story the way from my perspective, buddy, because what you're saying is identical as I think what you're experiencing with the purse prize and the bankruptcy and not being able to play the surfers. It's like you stand up and you still fucking take it on the chin, dude. And you do it and you're like, you can see the look on your face of, I feel like shit. Yeah. This is fucking horrible, but this is the right thing to do. And so I watched you in that environment. And as you're telling the story, this is the memory that I have of that correlates to what you're telling this part of your life and journey about, right? So you stood up on the stage at that race and said, hey, look, my bad. This is my race. I'm taking ownership. This happened. You didn't freaking blame anybody. You didn't freaking try to shift blame or try to come up with the bullshit excuse as to what happened. You literally said, I'm sorry. This is what it is. And 9 times out of 10, dude, that's all people really want, dude. The fact that you did that with the surfers and the surfers, you're like, I just can't do this. And the surfers like, dude, we get it. Yeah. And I think to your point, again, you're going to get surrounded and be involved with the people that really do support you. And even when you fuck up or fuck ups happen that are out of your control, you still have the tendency to, and the integrity. That's the word that I want to use. The integrity to stand up and go, fuck, dude, I own it.
Yeah. But if you want people to really respect who you are as an individual and as a business owner, I think you need to do that stuff, right?
But no, not everybody does,
no,
dude.
Not everybody does. And it's one of those things. I think that's being a small business. Every penny counts. Every smile counts. I always go back to when we interviewed Billy weeks ago, and he talks about how many smiles he brings to people. And
he's just talking to his wife about it. How was your day?
But that's the thing. I think that's the biggest thing that I get out of what I do and why I love to do it is I'm helping provide something where people can get out, be healthy, be competitive.
Yeah.
Whatever that competitive level is.
Yeah.
They're being competitive with themselves, with somebody else, whatever, and they're just enjoying the community and being outside and everything else. And it's something like that happens. And we've had issues with that race before where kids will go from the school to their homes, and in the meantime, they'll rip a sign out and they'll throw it out. And again, yes, I could blame the students all together.
Like, damn kids, get off my lawn.
But in the same token, it's, listen, this is my race.
Yeah.
I should take full responsibility for that. I could have gone out and made sure the course was completely marked fully. I could have done that, or I could have had somebody to do that. And moving forward at that event, we will. But those are small things that you look at and you're like, okay, this is a mistake. I'll own up to this. And it's, hey, you need to come talk to me privately. Come talk to me privately. But here's my announcement to everybody.
Yeah. And I think that spoke volumes. So you got past the surfing thing. You couldn't pay the purses. And now you're getting into, at what point did you launch ERS and CSEC go away?
So we bought some trail races in 2012.
When you say we, you mean CSEC? Or
At the time, I had a business partner.
Okay.
I had a business partner at the time, and so I had the opportunity to purchase some races in Colorado to start doing trail running, because I wanted the business to go more towards the production side of things.
Yeah.
I know that we wanted to do still the consulting stuff, but I thought the production side was going to bring more money to the business, more profit, more opportunity. Mm-hmm. So a friend of mine was selling his races. I decided that, okay, this is the right way to do this.
Where were the races at?
They were in Colorado. There was 7 of them that we purchased. To this day, 2 of them are still around. So we figured out that most of them were not worth really what they were supposed to be. And that's not the fault of my friend and selling them to me. I think they weren't really what I wanted either, but it was an opportunity for me to get into the business. And so that's where in the endurance racing, we actually bought the brand.
Okay.
So I not only bought the races, I bought the brand with it.
Got it.
And so as we were developing it and creating it, I realized that this is actually its own business. Like I can't. So I had CSIC as one business. And this is, I don't know what it is, but I always seem to have multiple businesses any given time.
You got problems, bro. Like most people just buy shoes or fucking.
Well, I do that too.
Yeah, but no.
I'm a serial entrepreneur. I honestly,
He's absolutely right. But go ahead.
So I had CSIC as the consulting business. I had Endurance Race Series
and CSIC still doing Jelly Belly. You got Endurance Race that you bought 7 races from.
Yeah, so it's 2 separate things. So we're doing the consulting and activation with CSIC, and we're doing Endurance Race Series as the production company, right? So now I'm like, all right, I've got to tread on this line because I don't really want to cross over too much here. Right. So we were running 2 different businesses at the given time, and then eventually the CSIC brand, I was like, this just doesn't sit well with me anymore. Like the name, I think, ran its course, I think. And
you're no longer in the surfing industry, dude.
No, yeah. I think it was one of those things where once we got out of surfing, we should have just bailed on the name altogether and just 100%. Been like, we're starting from scratch. Here we go. And we didn't do that. So I took that opportunity and was like, all right, screw it. So we got rid of CSIC marketing. And at this point in time, I had bought my business partner out. So it was just me now. And I created ERS events, which was the consulting side of things. So Endurance Race Series events, Endurance Race Series, it all funneled now Endurance Race Series. So that's how we were like, I need to build a brand. And the consulting became just an arm of the Endurance Race Series as a whole. And so that's where that kind of came and went and came back again and everything else. So we eventually stopped doing the consulting stuff. Now, don't do it from that level anymore. And ERS events is now... it's still out there, but it's not really. It's just one of those offshoot type of things that really only the deepest cuts of
So
people
do you
know.
currently still have ERS events?
Not really. I have the email address. But,
all right, but not. Okay. And then you don't have CSIC anymore. That's gone.
Yeah. The marketing side of things, everything funnels Endurance Race Series now.
Okay.
And
so talk to us a little bit about what is Endurance Series race. I know a lot of people that know you know what it is, but now what's your focus? How many races do you have?
So we do everything in the trail running space. Mm-hmm. And I truly, to this day, I believe that's one of the best sports communities there is. 100%. The inclusion of everybody and how friendly everybody is and supportive of each other at the races and everything else, right? So I think the community as a whole is one of the best that I've ever been a part of.
I think that's something that you and I click on. I think that the biggest feathers in our cap is that we've created this environment. You may have bought ERS, but you actually fostered the community to what it is today.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I bought it, it was just a brand that I just needed. I needed something to oversee some of these initial race brands. So even though I bought the name Endurance Race Series, I built the brand up from nothing, really what it came down to, and created this community, a community. What I tell people, even on our website, it's all about building community, not so much building trail races. Because I want more and more people to go outside, get on the trails, run, be healthy, and just be a part of a supportive community. So anytime that we're ever doing anything, like you come to an event, and one of the questions that I ask before we even get the race started, when everybody's sitting there listening to me talk about the course, is like, hey, are there any new trail runners here?
Yeah.
There are? Everybody give them a round of applause.
Yeah.
Welcome to the community.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I always lead in with. And I think it's important to show that respect to the community and be like, listen, we're trying to build this. And I think that's part of where some of the success of the business comes from, is the fact that I try and be so inclusive myself when it comes to that stuff. And
I feel that.
I want to show people that we really care. Like I really care about this business and the events and what we're putting out there. Like the product itself, like obviously it's a reflection of who I am. I also want it to be a reflection of what the community is as a whole. Yeah. I don't know. I love it. And I'm glad that I stumbled into it.
Yeah.
It was definitely not one of those things where I thought
it was not a professional basketball team.
No. And that's the thing. We got the trail running stuff. I've got another business. That does now back to the consulting and road stuff. I've got an electric vehicle rental business. So it's one of those things but it's always a growth aspect of it. And to circle fully on the whole entire learning aspect, is I was never really a student in the classroom, but I love to be able to grow things and build things and learn different facets of businesses and educate myself. Like, taught myself how to do all the graphic design. I taught myself how to edit podcasts.
If it wasn't for you, this podcast would not exist.
Yeah, so it's funny. And it's something that I really enjoy doing, and I will tell people day in and day out, money's great, but it's not always about the money. Like, you got to love what you do. And if you don't love what you do, then why the fuck are you doing it?
Facts. I think that's the perfect way to end that right there, buddy.
Yeah.
I've learned so much about you. I literally got chills right now. I think our listeners are going to really appreciate to know the background behind Big Sexy and the heart of your community and all your businesses, my good sir.
This is the most I've had a chance to talk
Dude,
about.
I know. It has really been hard. You providing the color, bro. I understand why I'm the color now.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You are really good at making the lines. We're going to use your superpower of knowledge and learning in your own right, dude. And we're just going to continue to hopefully provide value to the community. But
I remember why I started podcasting.
Yeah.
Because I get a chance to talk. Ever since we've started this, I got to sit back and be the secondary. Fuck.
Hey, somebody got to be the voice and the personality, dude.
I know.
All right. And I just got a lot more color than you do, bro. Sorry.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing your story. This is something that I really wanted to do. I think the audience knows who I am and my background, but I don't think they knew a whole lot about where you came from.
I'm glad you wanted me to do this.
Yeah,
so I
dude.
appreciate you.
It's awesome.
And I love you, buddy.
I love you too, bro.
This has been an international podcast transmission of No Fixed Agenda presented by Bubs Naturals. You can rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast episodes. NFA, over and out.